Welcome to the Even Better podcast, where your host, Sinikka Waugh of Your Clear Next Step, brings you exciting content about making communities better by helping people get even better at work.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the newest edition of the Even Better podcast, and this is your host, Sinikka Waugh. I am so delighted to have you join us today, and I am ecstatic to welcome back our guest, Kay Arvidson, my dear friend, Kay. Kay, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Sinikka. Thank you.
I am so thrilled and so honored that Kay would join us today and that Kay has agreed to share a piece of her story. This is part of our shift. For those of you who've been listening to the Even Better podcast for a while, we've passed our 100th episode and we're on to the new day, right? We've shifted just a little bit. This is still part of our ongoing mission here at Your Clear Next Step to help us all have even better work days so that together we can co-create better communities. And in the first 100 episodes, we had a certain approach, we did a certain set of things. And as we've shifted, this is part of my really intentional desire to elevate and to share the heroes among us. And sometimes there are heroes out there that wear capes and they soar through the air and they stand on mountaintops. And sometimes you're standing right next to a hero and you don't even know it. And this is one of those cases. And I am so excited to elevate Kay Arvidson, a hero that I have always known as a hero, standing right next to me because let me tell you some stories about Kay. For those of you who don't know her, Kay Arvidson has a career focused on leading change. She innovates, she drives people forward, she moves people forward. She's been in project management and business analysis, in e-commerce. She was out on the interwebs, folks. She was out on the internet, website development before website development was even a thing. And she was moving people forward in that space. And even today, she and I are working together on projects helping make sure that the space of the web and the space of web pages is accessible and available for people who need to be able to access technology pages that they might not be able to see otherwise. And she's got these wonderful, innovative ideas. But personally, Kay and I had lunch together on the first day that Your Clear Next Step stood on our own 2 feet, right? The first day that I wasn't under anyone else's umbrella and Your Clear Next Step was its own entity. And man, I will never forget the words of encouragement that Kay has brought to me all of these years, and her words of affirmation and the encouragement and the inspiration that she's brought through her own life, which we're going to hear more about, and the battles that she's fought and the things that she's overcome and the joy and the light that she brings through all of this. So Kay, I'm just so thrilled that you've been willing to stand alongside and walk alongside me in my journey, and that you continue to be just such a hero every day in the journey that you have walked.
Thank you, Sinikka. That's so kind of you. And I feel wonderful to be beside you as well.
So we're going to talk about some tough stuff today. And for those of you who are listening, and you know that I am always a puppies and sunshine kind of girl. And so I'm always looking on the bright side. And part of why I have the ability, I think, to look on the bright side, so some of it is my unwavering faith, and some of it is my intentional choice to surround myself with amazing people like Kay. And Kay, you have not always had an easy walk. You've been through some really tough stuff, and you continue to find great paths forward. Let's talk about some of the tough stuff you've been through, because you're willing to share that. Let's just dive right in.
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2017. And when I first found out there was something wrong with my brain, I thought that my breast cancer had returned, because that's how breast cancer moves. It moves to the bone and it moves to the brain. So I was totally unprepared when I went to my neurologist and found out that I had Parkinson's disease. I just remember the words progressive, degenerative, no cure, and exercise. And I went to the library and started to read about Parkinson's disease, and I got deeply depressed because it is a devastating diagnosis. I wanted to be positive about my illness, but to be honest with you, it took years to get there.
Yeah. Well, and you said that as almost an afterthought. So I want to, before you go any further, I want to go back, because when you got your diagnosis with Parkinson's, you first thought that and you said this is almost an afterthought, you thought that your breast cancer had returned. So you have already you had already in your life, you had triumphed over breast cancer. And when you and I had first encountered each other, I will never forget the day, Kay. I will never forget the day you had come back. We were in remission early on, and you had just seen your doctor, and you marched over to me, and you were sort of strutting, and we were having coffee or something. You were sort of strutting, and you said, well, my doctor just gave me a 98% survival rating. What's your survival rate, Sinikka? Or it was something along it was something along those lines. And it was just this absolute sense of joy because you had battled breast cancer and you'd survived. Ah, man. And now you just said it as an afterthought, like, oh yeah, I thought it was my breast cancer returning. And I want to, I just don't want our listeners to overlook that because you are already, I know you to be a survivor. And I know it took years for you to be positive about this, but you are at your core a survivor, Kay Arvidson. So how did you take charge? I know it, you wanted to be positive, and I know it took you a long time to be positive. How did you take charge?
Well, I chose to retire at age 65. I had really wanted to work longer because every year after your retirement age, you can get 8% more in your Social Security check, and I really wanted that 8%. But it didn't work out that way for me. So I needed to focus on my health. I needed to move out of my house and get to a one-level residence, and I needed to do it while my diagnosis was early in its stages before things got worse. So I retired, and I received a gift from one of my coworkers that is a bracelet with a quote inscribed on it from Maya Angelou that says, "Still I rise." And that has become my PD mantra. Every day, still I rise. If I have a bad day, because PD is cyclical, you have good days, you have bad days. When I have a bad day, still I rise. When another symptom comes along, still I rise. Every day, no matter what happens, still I rise. And that's how I took control.
Mm. So how do you live well with this?
Well, I had a surgery that is very innovative for treating Parkinson's. It's the only thing that treats the cause and not the symptom. It's called deep brain stimulation, which may sound really freaky and scary to some people, but it is the process where electrodes are placed into your brain to the area where the problem exists for Parkinson's disease, which is the basal ganglia, and it's not producing dopamine, which is the synthetic that's needed to control tremors and movement disorders. So the electrodes go into the brain, and a battery pack is installed similar to a pacemaker, and it stimulates the brain and it controls the tremor, and it's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. And I don't shake anymore, and it improved my movement, and my life was back. I got my life back after that surgery, and that was an amazing process. And then I found a quote that really spoke to my heart. And it said that the purpose of life is to find your gifts, and the meaning of life is to give it away. So I decided to give my gift away to Parkinson's disease. I joined the board of the American Parkinson's Disease Association. Together with the board and volunteers and staff, we resurrected a magazine that goes out to a third of the people who have Parkinson's in the state. And it had been dormant for 2.5 years, closed down because of COVID. And we brought it back to life, and it goes out into the mailboxes of people all over the state of Iowa, and it shares vital information about Parkinson's disease and positive information about Parkinson's disease. So then I joined a program called twitchywomen.com. And that's a Sunday morning program that speaks to women with Parkinson's. And it's a wonderful, wonderful program. And I love the name of it, Twitchy Women. And I joined the Michael J. Fox Buddy Network. And I became an ambassador speaking to people about the deep brain surgery that I had and telling them that it's not as scary as it sounds. And it really is life affirming and life changing. So I also speak to support groups, and I started to participate in research. I have gone to Iowa State University and to the Cleveland Clinic and done some fascinating research projects, finding out about ways to help people with Parkinson's. And that's how I live well.
So I'm thinking about this quote that you said, the purpose of life is to find your gift, and the meaning of life is to give it away. So in this moment where this disease could have been and was life altering for you, but you're finding meaning in giving away your time and your energy, and the solutions that you found, you're sharing with others, and you found such abundance in that.
I did. It spoke to my heart, and it helps me get through every day. It helps me, because everybody knows somebody with Parkinson's, and everybody's symptoms are different. There isn't anything consistent person to person to person. So in that confusing world, it gave me peace, and it gave me solitude, and it gave me hope.
So amazing. And I'm chuckling at twitchy women, that just the sense of humor that has, the nod to music that has. I just, that just strikes me as something that you would of course be drawn to.
It's a wonderful program. It really is wonderful. It's run by a woman out of California, and she has great speakers who come in, and it's a lot of fun.
I'm dancing in my head.
Twitchy women from all over the world come to this webinar. It's great.
That's fantastic.
It's really great.
Okay, so what else? What about exercise? Does exercise play a role in your life?
Well, I went to a conference that the American Parkinson Disease put on in 2021, and I heard a woman speak. Her name is Christine Meldrum, and she spoke about the science behind Parkinson's exercise. And this is an amazing process for me, because I understood that if you exercise at an aerobic rate, you can reduce the symptoms by as much as 35%. And if you exercise at an aerobic rate, you can also delay the progression of the disease. And that is what I needed to know to want to exercise. I don't exercise to lose weight. I don't exercise to look better. I exercise to fight this debilitating disease that is trying to rob me of the quality of my life. Now, Chris has written a book. It's called Parkinson's: How to Reduce Symptoms Through Exercise. It's really great. And if anybody's listening and wants to look for it, they can find it at parkinsonsbook.com. But she has, in her book, talked about stories of people's lives and how exercise has changed their life, people with Parkinson's. And she also has created something called a Parkinson's exercise cocktail, which is, there are 5 parts to it. There's an aerobic part, there's a Parkinson's specific part where you do things to test your brain while you're working your body in different ways. It's not difficult, it just sounds interesting. Is where you shake your hands and you count forward or backward by 5s or 7s, and on one foot, and on the other foot you say words that start with the letter, any letter of the alphabet, like words that start with the letter S or words that start with the letter R. So you're doing things with your brain and things with your body that are different, and that engages your brain and helps fight Parkinson's. So there's strength training, there's balance, and then there's doing something that you love. And I love to garden. I love to grow dahlias.
I know you do.
And so that's the thing that I love. And we had a chance to name our PD cocktail. I like screwdrivers, so I named my cocktail Screw You Parkinson's. That's how exercise plays into my life. I exercise every day of the week, and I do brain and body, which is the Parkinson specific work, 2 days a week, and I do aerobic exercise 3 days a week. So it really is a good balance in my life, and it helps me fight.
So I'm thinking about this, Kay, and I'm thinking about the hours that you and I have spent planting dahlias, and I'm thinking about the hours that you and I have spent. Well, probably shouldn't confess the times that you and I have spent drinking cocktails, but the hours that you and I have spent grousing. The hours that you and I spent grousing about exercise, and how neither one of us particularly is a huge fan of that particular thing.
I used to say that the bane of my existence is now my salvation. That's my comment on exercise. The bane of my existence is now my salvation.
Yeah, it's so marvelous how this has just shifted, right? It's a mindset shift. It's an absolute mindset shift.
And that keeps you motivated, and it keeps you moving. And it's not so difficult. If you're a person like me who hasn't exercised much in their lives, it's not that difficult to get to an aerobic level that affects your brain. It turns your brain on. And then the more you do it, the easier it gets to do it. But it's not something to be afraid of or something to not start because you haven't exercised before. It has huge benefits medically for people with Parkinson's, and it's not that difficult to get started.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. So as a nod back to the way we used to do podcasts, which was our listicles. So some life lessons that you've learned along the way. Let's see if we can get to those. Are there life lessons that you've learned along the way in this journey, Kay?
Well, there are several. One of them is what I call just-in-time inventory. I don't want to know about what might be. I don't want to know about all the possible symptoms that could happen with Parkinson's. I just want to know what's real and what's happening for me right now, which is one of the reasons why I like the American Parkinson Disease Association, because they have a wealth of information. And when something comes up that I need to know about, I can go there and I can find it. And that's just the way things are. It's just-in-time inventory. I know what I need to know when I need to know it. And that's been very important for me.
Okay, so let's pause for a second because that's got a really interesting life applications. So for you, the knowledge of knowing that you've got a resource that you can go to when you need to know what's coming next, or when you need to know how to help yourself, or how to get the resources that you need for this next stage of what's happening to your body or what's happening in your brain, you know that you can go to this resource and get just in time information, and you don't need to worry about that ahead of time. Let's apply that in life for just a second. Let's apply that in other places. So folks who are listening, because I know we've got listeners out there who are thinking to themselves, okay, wait, life application, what do I do with this now? Let's stop and think. Maybe you're a leader, maybe you're a communicator, maybe you're a project manager, maybe you are a parent, maybe you are listening and you're like, how do I apply this? Well, maybe you have a bunch of information. Maybe you need to be the source of that information. Maybe you don't dump it all on other people in everything that they could possibly need to know at once. Maybe you need to be a source of information and let them know how they get it when they need it, and be a trusted source of information, and know that, help others know that they can come to you for the information just in time, or they can trust you to give them what they need when they need it, that they don't have to always be searching and always be digging around to try and find something, but they can get it just in time. Maybe there's some application there.
That is so important. That is so important. It really is, because it frees your mind to think about what's really going on. And you don't have to think about all of the possibilities and all of the implications. You just focus on what is happening right now. And it's important to be aware of where you are in the continuum. Absolutely. But to focus on where you are right now gets you from point A to point B. And that's the way you get to point G or D or whatever it is you're going. You have to take it one step at a time.
You bet. All right, so there's the first one, just in time inventory. How about what else? What else you got?
Well, one of the things that's dawned on me as I have aged is that I have much more power. I think people have much more power than we realize as we're going through life. And I have the power to affect my attitude, and I have the power to engage in my exercise. And those two things give me the power to control my destiny. And having that power is so amazing and so important to realize, because in all aspects of life, we as individuals have way more power than we realize. You get to thinking about all the other implications and who's on the other side of the fence, or who's on the other side of the job interview, or who's on the other side of your boss. And you forget about how strong you are in your own position, and how strong you are in affecting the change or the work or whatever it is you're doing. And that power is important to realize and to recognize and to utilize.
Oh, that's so, so lovely. That's so lovely. I'm gonna pause and apply this to, okay, so listeners, let's stop and think about this. And I was just having a conversation with someone recently, and we were talking about Midwesterners. It was a mixed audience of Midwesterners and coastal folks and Pacific Northwesterners. And we were talking about the fact that here in the Midwest, especially in political conversations and organizational office politics, we don't say power, we say influence. Because power, man, that's what you use. That's what turns the lights on. We don't say power here in the Midwest. We say influence. Power is kind of a dirty word. And I love the way that you position this, because it's not about, maybe influence is in fact what I do to others, right? Maybe power is a mean word. Power sounds all political hungry or whatever. But maybe influence is in fact what I do for others. But what you've pointed out is that I have the power to control me. I have the power, I have the light switch, I have the power to control my attitude, which is how I show up. And then I have the power to engage in my own discipline. It's my own habit. It's my own practices. It's my own willingness to do the exercise, which to your point was the bane of your existence. And now it's the thing that's going to fight that disease of yours, right? I have the power to control me. I can't actually control anybody else around me, but I have the power to control me. And that, my friend, that right there, there's your superpower. That's it. That's where you get your cape. That's where you get your mask. That's it.
That is where it comes from. Thank you for pointing that out. That is so true. It is a superpower, and it's very important to realize. And I don't know why it's so easy to not realize it, but it is, and easy to get caught up in your own concerns or your own fears. But release that and realize how strong you really are.
I love that. I love that. Okay, how about anything else? You got just in time inventory, you got power, you got a third one?
Well, It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to get help. I mean, it's really hard to ask for help for some people, and it was very hard for me. But I simply cannot do everything I used to do. I remember with joy what I once could do, but I just can't do it all anymore. And so it's okay to ask for help. I have a wonderful care team. I have doctors, I have physical therapists, I have other board members from APDA. I have a wealth of people my daughter, a wealth of people who care for me and who help me. And I have friends who help me if I have a problem with the car, friends who help me if I need help with the garden, if I need help with the yard. And so it's okay to ask for help. It's okay. And it doesn't diminish anything about the person who asks or the person who receives it. Even strangers at the grocery store ask me if I could use a cart if I'm walking poorly one day. Could I use a cart to help support me? Yes, I could. And thank you very much. You're so very kind. People are kind and they care and they help. And it's okay to ask for it and it's okay to receive it.
Yes, because by receiving help and asking for help, you're giving someone else an opportunity to be their best self. Or you're giving someone else an opportunity to contribute, to be generous, to think of someone other than themselves. And that's how we co-create greatness around us.
It is. It really is. And it feeds itself. It feeds others. And there's just a kindness between people, which is one of the reasons I came back to Iowa. I moved away when I was in my youth and thought I wanted to go somewhere more exciting. But when I came back to Iowa, I realized there was just like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, there was much more in my own backyard than I ever realized. And that is one of the reasons I live here. It's why I love Iowa.
You and me both, my dear. Absolutely. Oh, I love this. Thank you. So as we're getting ready to wrap up here, any other last words of advice? Any insights from the superhero who is Kay?
Oh, thank you. Well, one of the things I think is very interesting is that by the year 2030, there will be more people over the age of 65 than under the age of 65 in our culture. It's the first time that's happened, as the last of the baby boomers reach retirement age. And so that is a prime time for Parkinson's disease to be diagnosed in 60 to 65 years of age. So I think we've got a tsunami coming of Parkinson's disease. There are 9 million people in the country with Parkinson's disease, and that is expected to double in the next 10 years. So now is the time to get ready for that. Now is the time to participate in research. I participate in research at the Cleveland Clinic and at Iowa State University. Now is the time to donate to organizations that support Parkinson's research. And I would like to invite everybody to come walk with me at the Parkinson's Optimism Walk on September 21st this fall and participate in my team called Aardvark's Avengers. And we will be fighting Parkinson's together, walking to fight Parkinson's together. And I'll include a link with this podcast to join my team. And everybody knows somebody with Parkinson's, and this is an opportunity to show that you care.
That's fantastic. Kay, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your story today. Now, this would not be the Even Better podcast if I didn't ask my trademark question. What's making you even better these days?
What's making me even better is continuing to rise, to continue to get up, to face whatever challenges come to me, to not let it get me down, to not let it overburden my thought process, and to free myself of thinking that I am a victim. I am not a victim. I am a survivor. And that is my goal, and that is what I do. And that makes me even better every day.
Absolutely does. Kay, oh, you are such a joy and such an inspiration for all of us. Thank you so much for your time today. I am so grateful. And for those of you who are listening, I am so grateful for you sharing a few minutes of your time to listen. I hope you are as inspired as I am. Every time that I spend time with Kay, I walk a little taller. I smile a little brighter. She makes me want to be a better person. And I hope that you have found that by listening in on this conversation as well. On behalf of all of us here at Your Clear Next Step, we hope the rest of your day is even better. Thanks so much for listening. Start your journey of becoming a certified changemaker through our Changemakers program. You'll get 8 full-day virtual sessions over 10 months, plus 6 hours of one-on-one coaching, 8 hours of intentional networking, and 8 hours of personal reflection.